From Laura's Little Bit of Craftin, coming to you on Tuesday, June 10th, after just a minor technical difficulties glitch. Um, every once in a while, the orientation on my view goes back to portrait but lays it sideways and it's all distorted. So I had to kind of start over quick. So, welcome. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, coming to you from Wisconsin, and I am going to do hopefully a quick card. It's a little after 11:30, so I'm a little later than my usual lateness. But I'm going to do the gallery glue or the gallery blooms and the beautiful motifs. Out of here, I'm just using the sentiment. And on this one, I'm going to use the floral image. I have some peonies in bloom along my driveway. They're about half of the bushes are in bloom. I think I have 7. 4 of them are in bloom. And I've got white ones and light pinks and dark pinks. And last year, I think it was last year, it could have been the year before, we planted another one. And it's yellow. And it has the most gorgeous bloom. Perfect blossoms. I couldn't ask for a more beautiful flower. So with that in mind, I'm going to kind of create this with that flower in the forefront. So I have a very vanilla card base, and this is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So my standard card base. And then I have a couple of layers of DSP. This is from the Gallery Blooms, no, the Beautiful Gallery 6x6 Designer Series paper. And it is one of the floral motif sheets. So one side is all of these, and they look like they're probably roses. And the back side is just this, I don't know, antique-ish looking piece. So that's what I'm using. And I'm actually going to stamp my image on that. So we could just start that right now and get that done and out of the way, because I've already put my finger in my ink 3 times. So I was moving things around, I put my thumb in it, and then I was trying to close it and I put my finger in it, and then I got it somewhere else too. So let's just go ahead and stamp and get this done. So this is a pretty juicy stamp pad. It's my Secret C, and I'm going to just stamp this, I guess kind of sideways. Not super sideways, just kind of sideways. And I usually just hold it on for a few seconds so it can sink into the paper. And then let's do our sentiment quickly, since we have it out, since the ink is out. And I cut some extras just in case I couldn't stamp straight today. I don't feel like I really accomplished anything today. And that is crooked, and I don't like it. So let's try it again. Sometimes it's difficult when you can't look right over the stamp. That's better. But now I think I pushed too hard because I don't like how that U is. So let's just try this one more time. 3rd time's got to be a charm, right? I don't like that one either. Let's try this again. I feel like it's Groundhog's Day. That's better. I like that one better. All right. So since I cut it from the other side, And there's a little rim on here, so we're just going to push that down. And I'm going to trim off just this little extra piece. And we'll get rid of those because I don't like them. So it only took me 4 times. But at least this one I got right the first time, since it's my flowers. All right, let's get this out of the way. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color it with my Stampin' Blends. So the colors are going to seem probably more muted than might normally be the case, because this paper is actually a grayish blue. I'll just put that on there. Guess we have some leaves over here. And I like to do kind of two-tone when I've got leaves, because sometimes, you know, you've got them shaded or the top is darker than the bottom or vice versa. And I'm using the paintbrush edge, but I am pressing very lightly because I don't like to break the tips. And if you press too hard, the tips will break. And then they don't give you a nice clean line when you want a nice clean line. And then for my flowers, I'm just gonna shade these in. And I use the side of my marker, my Stampin' Blend marker, again, because I don't want to break the tip. And I didn't color a couple of these on purpose because I wasn't sure how I would want them shaded. All right. So I'm not going to worry about doing a whole lot of blending just because of the designer series paper. And I'm not even too worried if I don't fill in every little area that can be shaded, because it's going to have kind of an antique look. But I am going to take a little more with a different shade and just fill in some of these other areas. I usually start with the lighter one and then add the darker shade after. But I've got a couple of different colors. I think I've got Lemon Lolly and Daffodil Delight maybe. Yep. So we'll do this in light Old Olive, and I'll just shade those in. So that's done. That's all I'm going to color. All right, so this piece, now that I've done my stamping and coloring quick, I wrote down some of the sizes, and let me close this because I know if I don't, I will get my fingers in it again. All right, so I already mentioned the card base is 8.5 by 5.5. I scored it at 4 1/4. I always burnish my edges. I do like to score just because I like the nice clean edge it gives me. All right, and then I have another layer that I cut down just a little bit small, or a little bit bigger than a normal layer. So normally I would do a layer at 4 by 5 1/4. I did this one 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I think is actually how I measured. Let's measure that again just to see. So that's 4 1/8. So yeah, it's like 5 3/8. Yep. All right, so it's just a little bit bigger. And then what I did was I took, you can see where I have one cut in here. Hopefully you can see it. And I used the Beautiful Motifs dies. And what I did was, there's a corner piece kind of on there that gives you just this flourish. And it just looks antique-ish to me. So I did it in both of my corners. So I already ran it through, but at least you can kind of see where I had it placed. Just a little border, all right? And then what I did, let me move this over on my magnet so I don't lose it. I curled up these edges a little bit. So I ran the one corner through, I turned it around, I ran the other corner through. Not rocket science. And then we will put this on here eventually, but first I want to take care of these pieces, all right? So rather than go exactly by my measurements here, like this layer here is 13/16 rather. So it's almost 2 7/8, and it's 3 7/8 this way. You're going to want to just put it in here and kind of measure what fits for you depending on where you put your dies and what size your layer is. All right. So this is very, very fluid. All right. It's not a perfected measurement. And then this piece, I just did basically an eighth, yep, an eighth bigger on each side, on two sides, so that I would have a 1/16 inch border all the way around. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue these together. Hopefully I have glue left. I've been emptying out a number of my glue bottles lately, which I suppose is a good thing. And I am a green glue fan because it does give me some wiggle room. So when I don't get things lined up quite how I want them, at least I can shift them a little bit so that it looks a little straighter. Okay, there we go. And then this piece can just go in here. Now I'm not even really worried about affixing that because we're going to probably get some glue or dimensionals on here. And I think I'm just going to use glue. So I'll make sure that I put a little bit of glue on these corners. And then I'm just going to go around the edges here. I'm not going to worry about gluing down that little floret piece. And we'll put a little bit of glue in the middle. And we'll center this on here. And I can see my little floral focal point shifted a little bit. So we're going to shift that back. And I think that's all good. So then I'll just press those down. And that's good to go. Now, one thing I was going to do that I forgot to do was I was going to do some blending brushes around here to soften up some of the color. So I think I'll still just try to do this a little around the edge, just so it's not super bright, very vanilla. And that's so subtle that you probably cannot see that on the camera. But I can see the subtle secret C in there. So with this one, when I was playing around with it, I took a lot of ink off. So when I pick up ink with my blending brush, and I always use a circular motion, I start off my image first, wherever I'm going to end up. And I took a lot of the ink off so that I wouldn't have any crazy dark spots on my card, because I do want it to look kind of antique-ish. All right, so I think that's good. Let's get some of my clutter out of the way. And let's go ahead and put our sentiment on. And I could get some Secret C cardstock to put behind there. But I think instead what we'll do is we'll maybe take some of this Secret C ribbon and put that behind here. So I know a lot of people kind of do this little wavy thing. And that might actually work this time. We'll see. We'll just cut this like so, and we'll see. Normally I would just be like boring and do something like that because it's safe, but I kind of like how it looked with the extra ribbon on there. So let's put a little stamp and seal on here. And we'll try this. We can always snip some off. And then I think I'll put a couple of dimensionals on here as well. If I can find a sheet that's got some full-size dimensionals. I'm working off a lot of end pieces. There we go. So we'll put several dimensionals on here in an effort to kind of hold these together as well, so that that ribbon doesn't shift at all on me. If you're joining live, let me know where you're watching from. I'm always curious to see where people are tuning in from. And I'm just going to put this right over here. I actually like how that ribbon looks. What do you know? I am going to make this side just a little bit shorter so it doesn't hang over the side of my card. I like that. Sometimes I surprise myself because I didn't do a mock-up of this. I did play with some of the pieces so that I could kind of have an idea of what I was going to do. And then I am going to also use some of these pressed flower motifs. Gotta have my little thumbs up guy there. I found this when we were traveling. My husband and I had gone out to Myrtle Beach, and this was at one of the stores. There was a 3-pack, and I thought, oh, that's a perfect YouTube little thumbs up thing. So let's put a few of these little motif things. And I don't know what happened here. A bunch of them just went crazy. Like super crazy. Is that Shayla from Arizona? I have family in Arizona. Mesa and Gilbert, Arizona. Thanks for stopping in. I got a little smudge on there. There, it was just some adhesive, looks like. All right, so that's it. I don't know if it really needs anything else. I'll put another layer on the inside and I will border it with that Secret C. Sarah from Australia, I love it. Every once in a while, I think is it like supper time by you? You live in Mesa? Is it Shayla? Am I pronouncing that right? Yeah, we have family in Mesa. Mesa, Mesa, Gilbert, and Tempe. That's all around in the same area, right? I have to look at a map because I don't pay attention. Let me get some layers here. So Sarah, I had a couple of other people from Arizona pop on around the time that I am. And okay, so it's afternoon, right? It's got to be afternoon. So yeah, 2:52 in the afternoon by you. Sometimes maybe I've gone on. Are you all one time zone in Australia? I don't even know. That's how geographically challenged I am, I guess. I don't look at the date line. Okay, so your screen name is Shayla. Okay, cool. All right, and then let's do 5 1/4 by 4. So these layers for the inside, I kind of did the standard size, I think, if I cut them right. So I'm just going to put a little itty bitty border on there. All right, so this one I did 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then this one was the 4 by 5 1/4. Do you do the same card size in Australia, Sarah, or do you do? Is it like an A2 that you folks do? So you might have to modify some of the measurements. This might be pretty in there. It's kind of similar. Or I could just stamp off. Maybe I'll try that for the inside. So if we do this, and then like so, I think that would be pretty on the inside. So let's do that on here, my real one. This is my practice one. And we'll finish this card out. So we'll stamp off once. This is my secret C. So you may or may not be aware that there is a color shift issue with the cloud cover ink. And if you take the secret C and stamp it off 2 or 3 times, this is basically cloud cover. So I had 1, 2, this would be the third. So there's my cloud cover, very similar to what the cloud cover is. So if you're not able to get the cloud cover ink, or if you don't want to get a Stampin' Spot and a refill, you can use your secret C. Stamp off twice and you'll be really close. All right. So let's go ahead and glue these together. All right, so Australia, some of the time zones are different in some states. So maybe one of the other times when I went on, I thought somebody told me it was dinner time, but maybe they meant lunch. That could be. I didn't look at what, I don't remember what time they said it was there at the time. But sometimes I've been on actually a little bit later my time because I'm a bit of a night owl. And then let's go ahead and put this in here. And again, I like to cover my layers. I don't use a thick layer of that multi-purpose liquid glue, but I do like to have it covered so that everything sticks down. All right, so there. Nice finish to that, don't you think? So the other thing that I had considered doing with this that I didn't, because I had initially some technical difficulties, and sometimes that throws me off, I was going to take my snips and just go around the edge of my layer and just kind of rough it up a little bit so that it would look even more antiqued. You know what I mean? So that's what I was going to do on this one. But since I forgot, it's just straight edged. So I didn't want to do it on the inside either. But 2 hours behind in Perth. Maybe I was doing, interesting. Well, sometime maybe I'll look at a map and look at what the time zones are and see. But it's fun hearing where people are from, different areas. So in Wisconsin, it's just about midnight, 2 minutes to midnight. So this is all I have for us today. Thank you, Shayla and Sarah, or Shayla, aka Mary. Thanks for popping in. Anybody else who's watching, hope you enjoyed this. Maybe it's something that you would be interested in recreating. These are the things I used. So the gallery blooms, because it really reminded me of my peonies. And then I just used a sentiment here. There's a lot of fun sentiments. And then this gallery, beautiful gallery paper. There's a couple of other things I want to make with this one. I almost did something to stamp my image right on that designer series paper. So that might be for another night. All right. So until next time, happy crafting, everybody.